Okay. Science class. Science class in STO is basically a support class. That means it supports its teammates. But support does not mean always healing and doing crowd control like debuffs and buffs. Lots of people will don't know too much what the support term means. Then when they match a PSI and the support, the first thing they look at it is as healing or a crowd control. Now that is wrong. Support as a PSI, you can be PSI in a cruiser, you will still support it. Would that be true as a healer or that as the tank? Same goes for Sunship. You can be a support as a healer or crowd controller, but you can also be a support SI in an escort like Prometheus, Defiance, and Dorian escorts. The only difference is when you're SI in escort, you will do more damage than in a cruiser or on a Sunship, but you will still be a support or more of a secondary damage dealer. PSI roles, PSI as a class is the most advanced and most hardest class to master it, because it really takes time to learn how to properly use builds. Unlike escorts, which when using unlike escorts who has a one role that's doing damage, unlike engineers who have three roles: DPS, tank, and healer. This one has only two roles: the healer and the crowd control. But the healer is the most, as a PSI, is the more difficult to master than as an engineer, because as an engineer you already have a captain powers who protect you, like a rotor shield frequency, miracle worker, EPS, that kind of stuff that can help you with that. Unlike PSI, who are more whose powers are more team oriented, more AoE, like scattering field, then sensor scan, but and also single attack like a sub nuke. As a PSI, the only thing, how do I say that? There was lots of time you guys would hear a debate which, as a healer, I'm just talking as a healer right now, of the healer, which class is better, engineer or PSI? Now, both of them are doing great. Both of them can be excellent and basically excellent healer. There is no best. Count that in. There is no bet. Only difference is, like I mentioned, one has captain powers who are more protecting themselves, while others, as a PSI, who is more friendly, who has more AoE power, tossed on friendly teammates. Did everyone got it right?
Sure. Yep. Just any questions so far?
No.
Okay.
Go on, Shans.
Okay, the secondary role for a PSI is the crowd control. Crowd control is basically about buffs in debuffs. That means using buffs like scattering field I mentioned, and then science team. I don't know which one. Then the I don't know. Then the powers like transfer shield strength, hazard meters, who are also healers, but they also buff the increase the damage resistance of the shield and the hub. Now, crowd control also relies on debuff. Debuffs are basically, if not the most important part as a class, because you have already two Captain Powers, the sensor scan, and the subnuke, with which you can add also powers like gravity wells, tractor beams,
Second
virometrics,
rifts. Second rifts.
Titan's rifts.
Yeah.
But sorry, that was my dog. Apologize for that. Yeah, but the thing is, when you're creating a crown control build, it is basic. It has multiple variations of build. You really precisely need to know what to do. That means, is your purpose as a side to aim for the sand ships? Do you want to go for the enemy healers, or do you want to go for the tacticals? Now, each build that goes with Control relies on different setups, different buff layouts, and different doors. But on the advanced session, I'm gonna cover what each buff layout goes with each buff and how to counter each power. Now, Mike, stay there. Now, what I told at the mic is the gravity well. Gravity well as a power is AoE. That means it's basically it holds targets, and also it's hull. I call it hull eater, because the more you are hold in that gravity the more your hull is dropping below. Now, I go on, Hirsch.
Yeah, it does kinetic damage.
Yeah.
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 Good.
Yeah. Now, for example, as the gravity well is the best works and is the more efficient if you use if you are maxing to auxiliary power, and because then it increases its hold, its kinetic damage. Then while you add to that, hold on for a sec. That is gravity well, sensor scan. You will notice how Mike's hull is dropping. Even now he used his healing powers. You will notice how his hull was dropping. Why? Because sensor scan decreases enemy players' damage resistance. That means when you use that with the gravity well, the player is losing his hull fast.
Any questions so far?
Just to remind everybody that even a level 1 polarized hull get you out of a gravity well.
Yes, that is correct. Polarized hull is a counter to the gravity well, same as for the tractor beams and other stuff. Now I at MACO the subnuke. Now, can everyone tell me what is a subnuclear beam?
It's basically cancels out any powers that are currently trying to activate.
And also what?
And it stops them from regenerating. It requires a cooldown before they can recharge.
Buffer.
Yeah, that's important. It prolongs your global cooldowns of your every power. What's the... How can you get rid of subnukes with which power?
I would think Science Team.
Yeah,
That is correct.
that's right. Okay, go on, Shans.
Now, this is the tractor beam. Tractor beam as a power is very used in PvP for best used against escorts. Why? Because escorts in PvP rely on the spin taking, which Hershey mentioned in the tactical session. That means the more they are strafing around you faster than you are, the more they're increasing their damage. Then, if you use tractor beam, you are slowing them down, you are holding them. But when using a tractor beam, if you are like the gravity well, if you are using it on the max auxiliary power, it holds tighter and much more the much more holds the enemy escort's target, while you also need to bear into account that the counter to the tractor beam is when attacking tactical, he will use attack pattern omega. Now, when in that situation, when you the most important thing is to read enemy buffs. That means, say, Hershey in his bug ship is preparing his alpha strike now, and he is already uses attack pattern. He's is already on his. You don't use back then tractor beam. You will have to wait patiently wait for his attack pattern omega to go to cooldown. Then once you notice that it is on cooldown, you then use tractor beam. And while with tractor beam, while he still has alpha strike, that means that the pattern kind of rapid fire and that kind of you use subnuke. Once you use subnuke on escort and you hold him, he basically becomes a dead target. Why? Because then you can easily call your escort teammate to just say focus on Hershey's bug sheet, and what he hold and debuffed, the enemy player will kill it for you. Now, how to say this? That means SI, even if it is support class, that doesn't mean you can't do damage. You basically with the science part, that doesn't mean you can do nothing. That you will you will heard lots of people who say that science power are useless. They don't do damage, and that kind of stuff. That is totally wrong. They do damage, but it is called kinetic. That means it doesn't kill your shields nor your weapons. It kills your hull. That means using powers like I use my gravity well, sensor scan, tractor beam or tractor beam repulsors. With the new dot, it kills target. With that, you are basically doing a damage. Now, Hershey, please attack my sunship. Now, what you notice, the power I use on Hershey is the feedback pulse. Feedback pulse is a defense-oriented science power that is basically a life savior against spike damage dealers as tech in escorts are. You know, the more you are, the more your feedback proxy is strong. That means through auxiliary power, through using particle generator consoles, investing skill points into particle generators. The more that tactical in escort will hurt itself, while you will be protected from his spike damage. Now, if you use feedback pulse when that target is attacking you, but in that situation you use also sensor scan of him, it basically kills. It will also, if the enemy target is not watching for his hull points, it will really faster kill the escorts. Anyone go on.
No, I was gonna say, is that Firefly?
What?
No, it isn't. So any questions so far about feedback pulse or something like that?
No, not so far.
Okay,
Anyone?
continue.
Okay. Now, I have a question for what beam weapon would you prefer on your sunship?
I've gone for Tetrions on this one.
Yeah, Tetrions with at least one torpedo launcher for the kinetic damage. Because they've lost their shields and the torpedo will do a lot more damage.
That is correct. Now, the thing is, you can't use beam weapons on all on every build. Every build has its own energy weapon. That means, for example, if you're using Tetrion weapons, the best option.
Oh,
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah, sorry. Noise behind. Yeah, basically, if you're using Tetrion weapons, it goes best for the shield tripping revival, because Tetrion as a weapon, it decreases enemy target shield. It kills enemy target shield. That means if you use the Tetrion weapons with the Tachyon beam and charge particle burst, the enemy target is gonna completely lose the shield. And then that, like Source mentioned, it leaves open. The enemy target becomes basically a target for the torpedoes. That means if you use quantum torpedoes or photon torpedoes with torpedoes per torpedo high yield, it will fast kill the target. For example, when you use a phaser, if you ask me, basically I consider universal weapon. Why? Because phaser can work on the multiple builds. It can go with I don't know, you can go with the disabling one, because or the like one I'm using, the kinetic one. The thing is, because of its proc of disabling stuff, it is sometimes really helps a lot when you say attack another starship and you use the target subship auxiliary. That thing will basically shut down the target, the starship's auxiliary, thus making it vulnerable. Because without the auxiliaries and the shield, the starship is useless. It will die very, very fast. For the escorts, if you use phaser, the best one option is target subsystem engine and target subsystem weapons engine. If you want to stop it, then use, like I said, use tractor beam on him, gravity well to stop him and then kill him, or target weapon subsystem to basically disable his weapons while he's preparing his alpha strike.
With the phaser proc and using subsystem targeting, is the system that you're targeting and then the proc a bonus? Like if you shut down their engines and it shuts down, the proc will shut down a random system at the same time if you got the proc?
That is correct. Now, also important is that important is with the PSI, basically you must always create when creating in a team with, say, 2 escorts and 3 escorts aside in engineer team. You basically must be, or should, you don't have to be, but it's still suggestible to be a secondary healer. That means besides having a main healer who's going to be either like Hershey, Sai in the reclass, or you still can help a lot of team if you, once the reclass healer is unavailable or is dead, you become acting as a secondary healer. That means tossing SIF-1 or hazard meters or transfer sheet or tactical team, and especially a science team when other teammates calls you, I'm Samyuk, please send me. If someone has science team, can you send me? Then if you have science team in your buff layout, in your power tray, you use the science team to help your teammates get cleared of the subnuke. Subnuke as a power is the science most dangerous weapon. Basically,
especially in PvP.
Especially in PvP. In PvE, it's useless. You don't need it. It's, the more sensor scan is more valuable in PV than subnuke in PvE. But in PvP, subnuke is basically the king, and that's why on the lots of people, lots of escort players or PvPers sometimes call that or say that science are the hackers, are the cheaters because they have an IWIM button called Summit. But that is totally untrue. Why? It is not IWIM button because it has a counter. Its counter is called Science. As every other power has gravity well has a counter to the with the attack pattern mega polarized core or the tier 5 Romulan rep also.
So I have a question.
Right.
For you, for everyone. So we are now in a pug team, let's say, and going pugging, and we are a pre-made team of 5. How many science characters or ships should we have?
1 to 2. 1 for
Yeah.
crowd control, 1 for healing.
Yeah, that is correct.
That is correct, but
Well,
So it's not strictly
who-
necessary
Yeah.
for 2.
who call targets in that team? 5 with 1 or 2 science characters.
The debuffer, I guess.
Yeah. The science crowd controller.
that depends. If you are Psi healer, you can also call targets because you still have, even if you're a healer, you still have subnuke sensor scan at your disposal. You know, same as
What-
a crack.
Why is science character calling targets in a pre-made team?
Because they can lump together several ships at once. The AoEs will do their damage, and if they focus on the most damage from the AoEs first, they'll bring them down quicker, and then they can move on and get
No.
higher kill counts.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a specific power.
The subnuke.
Yeah, that's it. So, science character has a subnuke. Subnukes the target, calls the target. Tactical escort or cruiser comes in, alpha strike the target, and the target is dead. That's the
Exactly.
correct way to do it. Oh, science guy, subnukes calls the target, and other members focus fire on that target, and that target is almost in every way dead.
Yeah.
The correct way to do it. So
That-
that's the importance of a science character in a pre-made team. Go on,
Yeah.
Shaz.
Yeah, what Hershey said, that is correct. Science class is in the pre-made teams is the basically at main target caller, and the secondary caller will always be the healer, will be the Psi engineer. But
joined your
yeah,
channel.
when we do this in the Jeff, we mostly go for the tactical because the tech is the one who starts the shooting first, but then it is still good that Psi player becomes a secondary target caller when the tactical player is unavailable.
So
Also-
if the tactical player is the caller, he always says who has the subnuke, how much until your subnuke is up, then
Yeah.
subnuke this target, and then he alpha strikes it.
Yeah, what Hershey said is true. There are those in PvP phrases like when the team leader will always use phrase like subnuke timer when it is then you tell him it is gonna be ready in 30 seconds. Okay, then he asks alpha timer when it is when then those who's playing as an alpha he's having the alpha, he will say that then once he learned figures that in 30 seconds you said after 30 seconds, you said Samyuk is ready. The alpha player says alpha strike is ready. Then he starts calling the target, and you first subnuke target, and then use the alpha strike to finish it, like Hershey said. Not before, not the alpha strike and then subnuke. No. First, always subnuke, then the alpha strike. Because if you go, I don't know, basically it goes that way. Because the most important thing is, you will guys notice when facing each other, is that cruisers are the most difficult to shoot. Now, they, unlike escorts, who, like Hershey said, you just use, when he's preparing alpha strike, you subnuke, then the alpha teammate player kills you. Engineer is more difficult, because engineer always, if he has at least instant science, we will always use prepare a science team for that. So you need to wait, patiently prepare to use subnuke. You can, like, just like when facing escort, use subnuke and that's it, because escort don't use science team, it doesn't need to. While engineers in a cruiser or scientist cruiser will have it, always will have it, beside tactical team or engineering team, will always have it. So when you come into situation and say, okay, the team leader say we are going to focus on cruiser. The first thing you first do is the pressure damage. That means to say, that is the job of the tactical. Once you read the boss and you see that cruiser captain has pop-up reversal polarity, and his science team is on already cooldown, then you use subnuke, and then the alpha striker prepares his alpha strike to finish, not before, not later. Go on, push.
Yeah, that's the basic function of science. The just basic one. His most powerful power is the subnuke. After that, there are many roles that science can produce, such as healer, debuffer, and so on. And Shanis will now tell you something about those functions, like a healer, which power is the powers to use, how to heal your teammates, so on.
Yeah, as a healer, like I mentioned, is the most difficult to master, because the thing is, with healer, you constantly need to watch your teammates' health. The more you watch how a teammates' health points, the much of a team health point, the more your teammates will stay alive. The more easy they will kill the target, and then the more you have, your team has a better chance of scoring the victory. Now, the most as a Psy, unlike if you are Psy in a cruiser, you will still have to, like we covered, you will still have the ability to use emergency power to not extend shield 3 or aux 2 Sieves 3 if you want. Then extend shield 1, Civ 1, engineering team 3, engineering team 2, transfer shield strength 3, 2, and 1, and has a meter 3, 2, and 1. While in a science ship, you are limited to that. Only exceptions are the Nebula class and the Lollipop. The research
The lollipop?
the
What the
research
heck's a
one.
lollipop?
That's the research science class. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, why? Because both of them have lieutenant commander engineer, and as a lieutenant commander engineer, you have more opportunity to use extend shield 2 or the aux to Civ 2 for the lieutenant commander stuff. Then that leaves you to using reverse polarity engineering team 2 or Civ 1 or extend shield 1 for the lieutenant, and for the ensign is mostly engineering team, or better to leave it for administrative power to shield 1 for your protection. But for science ships like the Intrepid, like Luna, like Nova, Vels, okay, not Vels, more like Nova, those are basically science ship who can't use a lieutenant commander engineering. They don't have that. So they mostly rely on the science-based powers like transfer shields, transfer shields, strength 2, and science team 1. But for the shield heal, for the hull heals, that will go for either SIF 1 and hazard meters 1 or 2, or engineering team 2 or engineering team 1. But I wouldn't go for the engineering team overall because you have far better option of the powers like reverse polarity, extend ouster SIF, and reverse polarity if you want to protect yourself. That's mostly relies on the science ship who has lieutenant engineering, like Intrepid has, Luna has, Deep Space Science vessel has, Nova have. They can use that. But on the ships like Wells basically is the most versatile science ship in the game because you can create it with the Wells offensive side, defensive side, healer, because it has Lieutenant Commander Universal and Lieutenant Universal, and with those two you can say go pure side. With the pure side that means Commander Science, Lieutenant Commander Science, Lieutenant Engineer, and Lieutenant Tactical and Ensign Engineering. Now, but when you go with that route, the defense pure science, then you will hazard emitters will be your only hull power to heal, and that is why it is important to precisely use hazard emitter. You don't thank yourselves for showing what is the hazard meters. You can't basically pop hazard meter like aux to SIF insert because it is a heal over time. It also has a much more longer cooldown, but in the crisis situation, that means say when your hull is 30%, it is a lifesaver, especially if it is you are using full if you're maxing to auxiliary. That means then increases, for example, say for example, my hazard meters with 113 to auxiliary does 40,860.1 hit points for over 50 seconds. That is a lifesaver. When you just heard how much it restores, it really saves us. And plus also it basically increases your damage resistance for 50 cents. That means also the escort or the player who's shooting you will much harder kill you than without it. Anyone understand?
Yeah.
Any questions?
How much were your hazard meters healing you for?
Hazamet is basically here for 50 seconds. That means that is 50 seconds for Hazamet 1, 2, and 3. There is no 20 seconds nor 30 seconds. It's always 50. But the only thing is different is it increases hull power. Say fully auxiliary spec, that means the auxiliary power meters. One is, like I said, is 14,860.1 hit points over 50 seconds. For the hazard meters 2, it will be much more. For the hazard meters 3, it will be much more. Now, also bear it in mind, remember that hazard emitters 3 is a captain only trainable power. It can be trained from the it can be bought on the exchange from another buff. It only can be trained on the via the captain. Same goes for the science team 3.
Yeah, I have two other questions. What about subsystem targeting and science fleet?
What do you mean about subsystem targeting?
Well, as a science, which would be the best to start off with? Subsystem turret, shields, weapons, engines, auxiliary, what?
That depends on what are you targeting. If you're, like I said earlier, if you're targeting escort, you go for engines and weapons. If you're targeting a sand ship, you go for auxiliary, then shields. If you're going for the cruiser, you target its engines, then shields. Why? Because the cruiser's weakest point is the turn rate. That's your advantage, turn rate of your science ship. If you are in the nebula, even if nebula doesn't turn like the Intrepid does, it still does turn more than the normal cruiser like Odyssey or the Sovi. Yeah, or the Vesta. It is your turn, and that means when attacking the cruiser, the best option is focus on one facing. Say, I don't know, Hershey, come here.
I'm on my way.
You see, okay, stop it. Now, Hershey, turn it slowly. You can turn. Now you see how much difference turn rate is between my Intrepid and Reclass. Reclass has low turn rate, so for it requires time to basically turn. That's why in this situation I use tractor beam, and you see I need to. That means also that in that situation, I must focus on the shield facing that is tractor. That means if say right now is the left shield facing, I will call the target, my escort to focus on that target, on that shield facing while he is still tractor beam. That is your biggest advantage, turn rate over the cruiser. For the escorts, like I said, was tolling is the engines. That means it will always outturn your escorts, always outrun sand ship or the cruiser. That way, the biggest advantage for you is shutting down his engine. Once he loses, essentially he's dead, and after that he goes with the weapons. For the sand ship, like I said, sand ship depends. Some sand ships have a high turner like the Intrepid, like the Vesta, like the Wells, and some have lower turner like the Nebula, like the Deep Space Science Well, so they can't turn that much. But for the sand ship, always use target subsystem auxiliary and target subsystem shields, because the biggest weakness to the sand ship is the hull points. Once you drop out his auxiliary and shield, he's
They're
dead.
dead.
Yep. That is why you will mostly found and learn that every player who's a science player like myself always go for specking into 6 points into armor reinforcement, because he knows the hull is your weakness. That means if you say put 6 points into hull plating or 6 points into armor reinforcement, you are increasing your damage resistance against energy weapons and kinetic damage like torpedo mines, especially when your hull, when your shields are down. Any more questions?
Not for me, but thanks for explaining that.
Okay, let's do one 5-minute shooting each other so that I can see how you guys do with your size. Then we can switch to the ground.